You know, when I think of Halloween, I have to admit it's not really that important a holiday for me. Okay, calm down. Okay, it's rather just not a holiday I have a lot of fond memories of. I'm more of a Christmas man.
You suck!
But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate a good movie featured around it, though. And Nightmare Before Christmas is that movie for me. Kind of. So hear me out. The premise of this movie is great. A famous artist, he hits burnout and attempts to reinvent himself by appropriating another art form, not understanding it at all, and ultimately is using it to fill the empty void in his life. That's great. That's great. But this movie is really like The Jungle Book in the sense that the musical numbers tell the story better than anything else in between. Hamilton is kind of the same way if you think about it, in that the aesthetic and what you can do with it mostly means that the standout musical numbers tell the story better than anything else in the movie. Granted, there aren't many other stories that do this, but compared to, say, The Little Mermaid or The Jungle Book or Beauty and the Beast, these don't have musical performances that could essentially end the movie. But poor old Jack here, that song does end Jack's story, with his own song with Sally more icing on the proverbial cake. But anyway. Going into the movie itself, it's hard not to see why people like this movie. The idea of a world where holidays exist in their own little world, where their purpose is to prepare for that holiday, is great. It's not even that new of an idea. That's basically what the North Pole has always been for Christmas. But this is such a happy, fun world in its own way. And Halloween Town in itself is great. Uh, Setting itself up in that, yeah, we scare people, but it's all in good fun. It's our job. We're not, I mean, this is our function, sort of the same way that Roger Rabbit's function, that Toon's function is to make people laugh and that they're bound to certain rules. And when you think about those certain rules and confines, it explains why they can't really grasp the idea of Christmas. And every character oozes personality. My personal favorite is the mayor. He's just great. He's great. Does he represent my anxiety some days? Possibly. But everything in this movie has this nice, friendly vibe to it, but always has this haunting feel to it. Just about every song feels a bit nefarious in some ways. Even Making Christmas has this kind of monotone feel to it that almost comes off as almost soulless, which I think was the point. Now let's move on to the real MVP of The Nightmare Before Christmas. As much as I love Oogie Boogie, which I think is just because I love Cap Calloway, it's not. It's Jack Skellington. And he's become like a pop icon if you think about it, with how the Nightmare Before Christmas sort of ingrained itself in the popular culture. Like, this movie is beyond a cult classic. Like, The Black Cauldron's a cult classic. Like, it's not that great. It's it could be ahead of its time, but it's not, because it just isn't there. Nightmare Before Christmas is decent. It just has a lot of other competitors at the time, and this feels very niche. But anyway, Jack is possibly the best designed character in the movie, especially his eyes, and the fact that his face is so expressive, along with his movements, make him one of Disney's greats. Jack, I think, is one of Disney's more interesting characters because he doesn't play off of other characters the way other main characters do. The story, in my opinion, is really about Jack trying to find a way to fill the void he finds in himself. On the surface, Jack has no reason to be sad or unhappy. He's essentially the town hero, the Pumpkin King. The mayor comes to him for planning Halloween, and everyone minus Oogie, who has his own story that we won't get into, loves him, but he's not happy. And that's a very real thing. A lot of people who have no reason that we can see to be unhappy is unhappy. And that can lead to a multitude of other things to discover about themselves, but whatever. This character here, he's kind of hit burnout. He's been doing the same thing year after year, and like Aladdin, Belle, Ariel, they don't have anyone to really talk to who just sort of gets them. Jack himself is surrounded by people who love him, but no one who gets him or even seems to like him for anything other than Halloween. They like what Jack does for Halloween, but do they like him for him? And truth be told, we don't even know Jack outside of this. What we do know is that he's lonely. Or at the very least, there's something missing in his life. And when he ends up at Christmastown, he finds a new obsession to study and devote his time to. Essentially, he buries himself in more work and a new distraction, but he's not really getting the concept of Christmas. He's reading A Christmas Carol and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Those two works are kind of polar opposites of understanding Christmas, and they don't really sell the idea, and all Jack is really focusing on is the aesthetics. He sees all these lights, all these cookies, the sights, the sounds, the smells. He's like, this is Christmas, right? Well, no. this approach to Christmas looks right, but it all feels off. And then we see the gifts, and it's easy to see that Jack didn't do the homework. His view of the presents is that the box itself matters, and whatever's inside can be anything with no thought to it. And this Kingdom Hearts scene, I think, sums it up nicely. Ultimately, when it all comes falling down, as Jack is shot down for essentially, are these home invasions? They pretty much are home invasions. But anyway, at his low point, when he clearly should have died, but he didn't, and it's alright, he gets out of his burnout. Oddly enough, this is one way to get over something like writer's block, taking up a new project, writing something different. It seems to work, but we know that that's not the only issue with Jack. His burnout didn't cause his depression caused his burnout, if we can agree that Jack is depressed to an extent. And it's really only at that point was he able to see what he needed, someone who he felt generally cared about him, and the movie kind of implies that it's Sally and Jack finding out and realizing that she's been trying to help him, both in encouragement and trying to convince him not to do this, was honestly enough. Jack, for the first time in a long time, is happy. He has a new appreciation for his work. He's got some new ideas and someone special in his life to be open with. And Sally is also unique in this movie because, like Jack, she's the only person who seems to get what it means to be sad. I mean, we see the scene when they think Jack is dead, and everyone's like very over the top and sad, and that's great, but Sally's sadness seems more like Jack's in that it's personal and it's a bit more intimate, and because of that, it feels more universal. Both Jack's lament and Sally's song are private moments we, the audience, get to see, so it feels more impactful to us, like we're rooting for Sally, we're rooting for Jack. Halloween Town is upset that Jack's dead, well, they presume Jack's dead, and yes, that is sad, but those still private moments are what Jack and Sally have and what they're trying to express. And together they can do that. That's what makes it work. And you know what? That's enough armchair psychology. That's enough. So let's bring this video to close here. What did you guys think of The Nightmare Before Christmas? Do you love it? Do you hate it? I don't know anyone who hates this. I think, like, is it legal to hate this thing? I don't think it's possible. What's your favorite moment? What's your favorite song? I'm torn between Jack's Lament, Jack's Obsession, and Oogie's song because I love it. It's one of the best villain songs ever. It's a shame I couldn't find a way to squeeze Oogie into the School of Disney villainy because he just kind of shows up at the end as the antagonist, and it's just sort of like, well, this has to go wrong somehow. Well, just have Oogie do it. And of course, it's revealed that Oogie was Dr. Finkelstein, but that was changed for good reason. But anyway, we're rambling. I will catch you all later. Happy Halloween. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. May your fandom serve you well.